Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider. Imagine holding a small, ordinary-looking coin in your hand. A coin so common that most people wouldn't even give it a second glance, yet hidden within its copper surface lies a story that stretches across decades, a story of history, design, economics, and a surprising twist of value that has captured the attention of collectors around the world. And today we are diving deep into the fascinating world of the 1-cent United States coin from the year 1979, a coin that may appear simple but carries layers of meaning, intrigue, and in some rare discussions, extraordinary value, claims reaching as high as $181 million, a number that instantly raises eyebrows and curiosity, because how can something so small and seemingly insignificant be associated with such an enormous figure? To begin understanding this coin, you first have to step back into the historical timeline of the United States Mint, where the Lincoln cent, commonly known as the penny, had already been in circulation for 70 years by 1979, originally introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, making it the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure rather than symbolic imagery, and by 1979, this design had become one of the most recognizable coins not just in America but globally, a symbol of everyday transactions and a staple in pockets, jars, and cash registers. The 1979 1-cent coin continues the classic Lincoln Memorial design that had been introduced in 1959, replacing the earlier wheat reverse, and this design remained in use until 2008, meaning the 1979 penny sits right in the middle of a long-running era, giving it both familiarity and consistency. Yet within that consistency lies subtle variations that collectors often hunt for with great excitement, because even the smallest differences in minting can transform a common coin into a rare, collectible treasure. Looking closely at the front, or obverse, of the coin, you will see the profile of Abraham Lincoln facing to the right, a design created by Victor David Brenner, whose initials, VDB, can actually be found on the coin, though in earlier years they were more prominently displayed and later reduced in size. And this portrait is not just a simple engraving but a detailed artistic representation that has become iconic over time, with the word Liberty appearing to the left of Lincoln, the year 1979 inch stamped to the right, and the phrase, "In God We Trust," arching above his head, all carefully arranged to create a balanced and meaningful composition. Now turning the coin over to the reverse side, you are greeted by the Lincoln Memorial, a structure that itself holds deep historical and cultural importance, symbolizing unity, strength, and remembrance. And if you look very closely at a well-preserved coin, you can even see a tiny representation of the statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, a detail so small yet so precise that it continues to amaze collectors and enthusiasts. And above the memorial you will find the words, "United States of America," with "E pluribus unum," displayed just above the structure, and at the bottom, the denomination, 1 cent, clearly marking its value. In terms of physical characteristics, the 1979 penny weighs approximately 3.11 grams and is composed primarily of copper, specifically 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that had been standard for decades before the shift to copper-plated zinc in 1982, making coins like the 1979 version part of the last era of heavier, more copper-rich pennies, which is why many collectors appreciate them not only for their design, but also for their material composition, as they represent a period before cost-cutting measures changed the nature of the coin itself. The coin also carries a mint mark, which indicates where it was produced, and in 1979, pennies were minted in 3 primary locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with Philadelphia coins typically lacking a mint mark, Denver coins marked with a small d, and San Francisco coins marked with an S, often produced as proof coins with a higher level of detail and a mirror-like finish, and these mint marks play a crucial role in determining the rarity and value of a specific coin, as some mintages were significantly higher than others. Speaking of mintage, the number of 1,979 pennies produced is extremely high, reaching into the billions across all mints, which immediately tells us that in general, this coin is not rare in the traditional sense, and most examples found in circulation today are worth only their face value or slightly more depending on condition, yet this is where things become interesting. Because within such massive production numbers, errors, variations, and exceptional conditions can create coins that stand out dramatically from the rest, turning an ordinary penny into something far more desirable. Collectors often search for mint errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, or unusual planchet issues, and while these are not common, they do exist, and when discovered, they can significantly increase the value of the coin, sometimes reaching hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the severity and uniqueness of the error. And this is part of what fuels the fascination with coins like the 1979 penny, because the possibility of finding something rare hidden among the ordinary creates a sense of excitement and treasure hunting. Now, when we talk about the idea of a 1979 penny being worth $181 million, it is important to approach this claim with a critical and realistic perspective, because in the official numismatic market, no standard 1979 penny has ever been sold for anything close to that amount, and such figures are often the result of internet myths, exaggerated claims, or misunderstandings about rare coins in general. However, that does not mean the coin has no value beyond its face value, as high-grade examples, especially those graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services, can fetch impressive prices among serious collectors. Condition plays a massive role in determining value, and coins that have never been circulated, known as uncirculated coins, with sharp details, original luster, and no signs of wear, are far more valuable than those that have spent years in everyday use, and proof coins from the San Francisco Mint, with their polished finish and sharp contrast, are particularly sought after, especially when preserved in perfect condition without scratches or blemishes. Another interesting aspect of the 1979 penny is its connection to the broader economic environment of the time, as rising metal costs in the late 1970s and early 1980s eventually led to changes in coin composition, making earlier copper coins more appealing to collectors and even to those who simply value their metal content. And while it is illegal to melt pennies for their copper value in the United States, the idea that the metal inside the coin could be worth more than its face value adds another layer of intrigue. As we continue exploring this coin, it becomes clear that its true value lies not just in monetary terms, but in its history, design, and the stories it carries, from the hands it has passed through to the collectors who carefully preserve it. And while the claim of a $181 million value may not hold up under scrutiny, it serves as a reminder of how even the smallest objects can capture the imagination and spark curiosity, leading people to look closer, learn more, and appreciate the hidden details of everyday items. And this is only the beginning of our deep dive into the 1979 1-cent coin, because there are still more layers to uncover, including specific rare varieties, grading secrets, and the psychology behind why collectors are willing to pay premium prices for certain coins, all of which we will continue exploring in the next part as the story unfolds further. As we move deeper into the world of the 1979 1-cent coin, the conversation naturally shifts from general understanding to the finer details that separate an ordinary coin from one that collectors actively chase, because in numismatics, the smallest variation can create a massive difference in desirability, and this is where the true excitement begins. In the microscopic details that most people overlook but collectors study with intense focus, often using magnification tools, proper lighting, and years of experience to identify subtle features that can dramatically impact value. One of the most important aspects to understand is the concept of grading, because when it comes to coins, condition is everything, and the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth hundreds of dollars often comes down to how well it has been preserved over time. Grading is typically done on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers representing better condition, and coins graded at MS65 and above are considered gem quality, while anything approaching MS67 or MS68 becomes extremely rare, especially for coins that were produced in massive quantities, like the 1979 penny. The challenge with the 1979 penny is not finding one, but finding one in near-perfect condition, because most coins from that era were heavily circulated, meaning they were used in everyday transactions, exposed to scratches, dirt, and wear, which reduces their grade significantly. So when a collector discovers a 1979 penny with sharp edges, no visible wear, and original mint luster still intact, it immediately stands out as something special, and this is where professional grading services come into play, organizations that authenticate and assign official grades to coins, sealing them in protective holders to preserve their condition and verify their authenticity. Another layer of intrigue comes from mint variations, particularly when comparing coins from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, because each mint had its own production processes, slight differences in die preparation, and varying levels of quality control, which means that even though the design is the same, coins from different mints can exhibit unique characteristics. For example, San Francisco proof coins are known for their mirror-like surfaces and frosted details, creating a striking visual contrast that makes them highly desirable among collectors, while Denver and Philadelphia coins are more commonly found in circulation but can still achieve high value if they are in exceptional condition. Then, there are mint errors, which are perhaps the most exciting category for collectors because they represent mistakes made during the minting process, and these mistakes are not supposed to happen, which is exactly why they become so valuable when they do. Imagine a coin being struck slightly off-center, resulting in a design that is shifted to one side, or a double die error where the design appears duplicated due to a misalignment during the die creation process. These kinds of errors are rare, unpredictable, and highly sought after, turning an otherwise ordinary 1979 penny into a unique collectible piece. Some collectors also pay close attention to die cracks, cuts, and other minor imperfections that develop as minting equipment wears down over time, and while these might seem like flaws, they actually add character and uniqueness to the coin, creating identifiable varieties that can be cataloged and tracked within the collecting community. And this level of detail transforms coin collecting from a simple hobby into a form of detective work, where enthusiasts analyze patterns, compare specimens, and share discoveries to uncover new varieties. Now, let's address the topic of rarity more directly, because despite the enormous number of 1979 pennies produced, true rarity comes from a combination of factors, including condition, errors, and specific mint characteristics. For example, while billions of pennies were minted, only a tiny fraction have survived in pristine condition, and an even smaller number exhibit significant errors, which means that the pool of highly valuable coins is extremely limited, and this scarcity drives demand among collectors who are willing to pay premium prices to add these rare pieces to their collections. The psychology behind coin collecting also plays a major role in determining value, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying history, uniqueness, and the thrill of ownership. Owning a rare coin is like holding a piece of time, a tangible connection to the past, and this emotional aspect often influences market prices just as much as objective factors like rarity and condition, which is why some coins can sell for unexpectedly high amounts at auctions, driven by competitive bidding and the desire to own something truly special. When discussing market value, it is important to differentiate between realistic prices and exaggerated claims. Because while stories of coins worth millions can capture attention and go viral online, the actual market operates within more grounded parameters. For the 1979 penny, most circulated examples are worth exactly 1 cent, while uncirculated coins might range from a few cents to a few dollars, and high-grade examples can reach into the tens or even hundreds of dollars, particularly if they are professionally graded and certified. Proof coins from San Francisco can also command higher prices, especially in flawless condition, but still within a realistic range compared to the extreme figures sometimes mentioned online. That being said, the idea of a coin reaching an extraordinary value is not entirely impossible in the world of numismatics, because there are documented cases of rare coins selling for millions of dollars, but these are typically unique historical pieces, limited mintages, or coins with significant historical errors, and the 1979 penny, while interesting and collectible, does not fall into that category under normal circumstances, so any claim of a $181 million value should be approached with skepticism and verified through credible sources. Another fascinating detail about the 1979 penny is its role in the transition period leading up to major changes in coin production. As economic pressures continued to rise, the cost of producing copper coins became increasingly unsustainable, eventually leading to the introduction of zinc-based pennies in 1982, which makes pre-1982 copper pennies, including the 1979 version, part of a distinct era that collectors often focus on, and this historical context adds another layer of significance to the coin, connecting it to broader economic trends and decisions. Collectors also often store their coins in protective holders, albums, or capsules to prevent damage, because even a small scratch or exposure to moisture can reduce a coin's value, and proper storage becomes especially important for high-grade coins, as maintaining their condition is essential for preserving their worth over time, and this attention to detail reflects the level of dedication within the collecting community, where even the smallest factors are carefully managed. As we continue this journey, it becomes clear that the 1979 1-cent coin is far more than just a piece of currency. It is a gateway into a complex and fascinating world where history, art, economics, and human psychology intersect. And while it may not realistically be worth $181 million, its true value lies in the stories it tells and the passion it inspires among collectors. And there is still more to uncover as we move forward into even deeper insights, including specific auction examples, hidden varieties, and advanced collecting strategies that can help identify truly valuable coins. As we go even further into the depths of the 1979 1-cent coin, the focus now shifts toward the real-world marketplace, where coins are not just studied but bought, sold, graded, and fiercely competed over, because the true test of a coin's value is not what people claim online, but what collectors are actually willing to pay for it in auctions, private sales, and dealer networks. And this is where things become both practical and fascinating at the same time. In the collector market, auctions play a critical role, especially those conducted by well-known numismatic auction houses, where rare coins are presented with detailed descriptions, high-resolution images, and official grading certifications, and when a high-grade 1979 penny appears in such an auction, particularly one graded at the very top of the scale like MS-67 or higher, it immediately draws attention, not because it is inherently rare in mintage, but because surviving examples in such flawless condition are extremely scarce, and scarcity at that level creates competition among serious collectors. There have been cases where exceptionally preserved Lincoln cents from similar years have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, especially when they exhibit strong luster, perfect strike quality, and zero visible marks under magnification. And while the 1979 penny is not known to consistently reach extreme prices, it can still achieve impressive results when all the right factors align. particularly in certified slabs from top grading companies, where authenticity and condition are guaranteed, giving buyers confidence to bid higher. Another important factor in determining value is eye appeal, which goes beyond technical grading and into the visual beauty of the coin, because two coins with the same grade can still differ in how attractive they look. One may have brighter luster, better color, or more even toning, while the other might appear dull or uneven, and collectors often prefer coins that stand out visually, even within the same grade category, which can push prices higher in competitive environments. Toning itself is an interesting phenomenon, especially with copper coins like the 1979 penny, because over time, exposure to air and environmental conditions can cause the surface to change color, creating shades of brown, red, or even rainbow-like effects in rare cases. And while some collectors prefer the original bright red appearance of freshly minted copper coins, others are drawn to unique toning patterns that make a coin visually distinctive, adding another layer of individuality and potential value. Now, let's return to the concept of the so-called $181 million valuation, because it is important to break this down logically. In the entire history of coin collecting, only a handful of coins have ever reached values in the tens of millions, and those are typically extremely rare, historically significant pieces like early American coins, unique mint errors, or coins with only one or two known examples in existence. The 1979 penny does not fall into this category under any verified record, which strongly suggests that such a figure is either a misunderstanding, an exaggerated claim, or possibly confusion with a completely different coin. However, this does not mean that searching through 1979 pennies is pointless. In fact, it can be quite rewarding, because the thrill of discovering a high-grade coin or a rare mint error is very real, and many collectors start exactly this way, by examining everyday coins and gradually developing the knowledge and skills needed to identify valuable pieces, and this process itself becomes a passion, a hobby that combines patience, curiosity, and attention to detail. One of the smartest strategies for collectors is to focus on condition rarity rather than mintage rarity, because while millions or even billions of coins may have been produced, only a tiny percentage remain in near-perfect condition, and these are the coins that tend to appreciate in value over time, especially as more collectors enter the market and compete for the best available examples. And this principle applies strongly to coins like the 1979 penny, where finding a top-grade specimen can be far more valuable than simply owning multiple average ones. Another advanced concept in coin collecting is population reports, which are published by grading companies and show how many coins of a specific type have been graded at each level, and these reports provide valuable insight into rarity. For example, if only a handful of 1979 pennies have been graded at MS67 or higher, it immediately tells collectors that such coins are scarce and top condition, even if the overall mintage was enormous, and this information directly influences market prices and demand. The role of counterfeit detection is also worth mentioning, because as coin values increase, so does the risk of fake coins entering the market, and while it is less common for lower-value coins like the 1979 penny to be counterfeited compared to high-value rarities, it is still important for collectors to be cautious, especially when dealing with coins that are claimed to have unusual features or extremely high value. And this is why professional grading and authentication services are so important, as they provide a layer of trust and verification. Interestingly, the 1979 penny also holds educational value, as it is often used by beginners to learn the basics of coin collecting, including how to identify mint marks, evaluate condition, and understand grading scales, and because it is so widely available, it offers a low-risk entry point into the hobby, allowing new collectors to practice and build their knowledge without making significant financial investments, and over time, this knowledge can lead to more advanced collecting pursuits. From a broader perspective, coins, like the 1979 penny, also reflect the economic and cultural environment of their time, representing everyday life, commerce, and the decisions made by governments regarding currency production. And in this sense, even the most common coin becomes a historical artifact, a small piece of a much larger story that connects generations and preserves moments in time. And perhaps the most fascinating part of all is how perception shapes value, because while the intrinsic value of the coin is minimal, the perceived value can vary dramatically depending on context, rarity, and demand, which is why some coins sell for astonishing prices while others remain overlooked, and this dynamic creates a constantly evolving market where knowledge truly is power. And those who understand the details are best positioned to identify hidden opportunities. As we prepare to move into the next part, there is still more to uncover, including deeper insights into hidden varieties, expert tips for identifying valuable coins quickly, and the final breakdown of what truly makes a coin worth big money in the real world, beyond myths and hype, continuing the journey into the captivating story of the 1979 1-cent coin. As we reach the final stretch of this deep exploration into the 1979 1-cent coin, everything now comes together into a clearer, more grounded understanding of what truly gives a coin value, separating myth from reality, while still preserving the excitement that makes coin collecting such a captivating pursuit, because at the end of the day, the story of this coin is not about unrealistic numbers, but about knowledge, awareness, and the hidden potential that lies in the smallest details. One of the most important skills a collector can develop is the ability to quickly evaluate a coin, and with the 1979 penny, this begins with a simple but powerful checklist, first looking at the overall condition, checking whether the coin still has its original mint luster, whether the surface is clean or covered with scratches, and whether the fine details in Lincoln's hair and the Lincoln Memorial are sharp and well defined, because these elements immediately indicate whether the coin falls into a higher grade category or not, and even a slight improvement in condition can mean a noticeable increase in value. Next comes the inspection of the mint mark, identifying whether the coin was produced in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, and while this might seem like a small detail, it can make a difference, especially when dealing with proof coins from San Francisco, which are known for their superior quality and finish, and collectors often prefer these coins because they represent the highest standard of minting from that era, with mirror-like backgrounds and crisp, frosted designs that stand out beautifully under light. Then comes the more advanced step, searching for errors and varieties, which requires patience and sometimes magnification tools, looking closely for doubling in the lettering, misalignment in the strike, or any unusual marks that are not part of the standard design, because these imperfections, while accidental, are exactly what can turn an ordinary coin into something rare and desirable. And this is where collectors often experience the thrill of discovery, finding something unique that others may have overlooked. Another practical aspect to consider is how coins are stored and preserved, because even the most valuable coin can lose its worth if it is not properly protected. Exposure to moisture, air, and physical handling can all cause damage over time, so serious collectors use protective holders, coin flips, or professionally sealed slabs to maintain the condition of their coins, ensuring that they remain in the best possible state for future evaluation or sale. And this level of care reflects the long-term mindset of collectors, who see coins not just as objects, but as investments and historical artifacts. Now, returning one last time to the idea of extreme value, the claim of a 1979 penny being worth $181 million stands as a perfect example of how misinformation can spread, especially in the digital age where eye-catching headlines attract attention quickly. But when examined through the lens of real numismatic data, auction records, and expert analysis, it becomes clear that such a valuation does not align with reality, and understanding this is crucial because it allows collectors to focus on genuine opportunities rather than chasing unrealistic expectations. However, this does not take away from the importance or appeal of the 1979 penny, because its true worth lies in its accessibility, its history, and the role it plays in introducing people to the world of coin collecting. It is a coin that anyone can find, study, and learn from, and in doing so, it opens the door to a much larger universe of rare coins, historical discoveries, and valuable knowledge. And for many collectors, it is the starting point of a lifelong passion. There is also something deeply meaningful about the idea that even in a world driven by large transactions and digital currency, a small copper coin from decades ago can still hold relevance, still spark curiosity, and still bring people together in a shared interest, because coins are more than just money. They are pieces of history that carry stories across generations, silently witnessing the passage of time while remaining unchanged in form. And perhaps the most powerful takeaway from all of this is the reminder that value is not always obvious. Sometimes it is hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered by those who are willing to look closer, to learn, and to question. Because while most 1979 pennies will never be worth more than a few cents, the possibility of finding something rare, something unique, keeps the excitement alive, turning an ordinary search into an extraordinary journey. So the next time you come across a simple 1-cent coin, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look, examine the details, check the date, the mint mark, the condition, because you never truly know what you might find. And even if it turns out to be just another common penny, the knowledge you gain and the curiosity you build are worth far more than the coin itself. And that is the real treasure hidden within the 1979 1-cent coin. And with that, the story comes full circle, from a small piece of copper to a deep exploration of history, design, rarity, and human fascination, proving that sometimes the most ordinary objects can carry the most extraordinary stories, if only we take the time to see them properly.